Yeah, thank you so much, Corinne. I'm really appreciative of everyone who's coming in. Really happy to help you guys out in any capacity that we can. I'm a Medicare specialist, but I did get to talk to some amazing people about Medicaid as well. So I know everybody watching is looking out for somebody on Medicaid, and it can be kind of confusing understanding how that differs from Medicare. So, I'm hoping this helps you understand everything a little bit better. There's a lot to cover. I could probably talk about this for like hours upon hours, but this should give you a pretty good idea. At the end, if you guys want the slides, anything like that, happy to send them to you. So, you can always reach out to me in any capacity, and I'm always happy to help you out in any way I can. And my team here at NJ Life and Health can as well. So, we're going to start off with what we're going to cover today. So, the first thing is how Medicare works. Again, that's my specialty. That is what I do. That's what we prioritize. We're also going to talk about how Medicaid works in NJ, and we're going to talk about how Medicare and Medicaid
Mhm.
together. So, if you've already been on Medicaid and you're about to go on Medicare, there are some things that change. So, it's good to go over all that and understand. And then we're also going to talk about your health insurance options when you get Medicare and Medicaid. And then that was kind of my initial thing. And I talked to Corinne, and she said you guys have a lot of questions about staying on Medicaid, the application process. So we're going to talk about a couple different tools for people to stay on Medicaid. When something happens, like you get a large sum of money or year over year, how to do it. So a lot to cover. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end, but we're just going to dive right into it. So disclaimer, guys, this is an educational seminar. Everyone has different needs. You're definitely going to want to consult experts for your specific situation. And the information in these slides in this video is subject to change as laws change. So this is a constantly moving area, as I'm sure you guys all know from experience. So why should you trust us? Well, we're NJ Life and Health. We're a family-owned and operated insurance brokerage in Toms River, New Jersey, primarily focusing on Medicare and life insurance. We have thousands of clients across 25 states, but New Jersey is our home, and we're always happy to help out in any capacity. And I also want to give a huge thank you to Mattis Law Group and Senior Planning Services. They helped answer a lot of the Medicaid specific questions. So if you need anything related to Medicaid specifically, these are both amazing resources, very empathetic, kind people who really know what they're doing. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is what is Medicare. We're going to do very bare bones, build the foundation before we get into the fun stuff a little bit later. Medicare is a federal level health insurance program for seniors and those with disabilities. You're going to qualify if you're over 65, you've taken SSDI payments for 24 consecutive months, or you can get on the fast track if you're diagnosed with ESRD, which is kidney failure, or ALS, which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. So, what does Medicare cover? Well, as of 2023, 98.9% of doctors and hospitals accept Medicare. It is amazing, amazing coverage. It works just about everywhere. People are shocked. They don't even look up their doctors because they just have the assumption it's going to work. Now, when you go on Medicare, you're going to, as a baseline, get Medicare Part A, which covers hospital or inpatient care. This is things like hospital stays, skilled nursing care, hospice care, some home health care. It's not quite as big as you would think it is based on everything I just told you. Most of what's covered by Medicare is under Medicare Part B. This is your doctors, your specialists, your durable medical equipment, your surgeons, your different types of therapy. So this is the basis of it. Now, for purely hospital and medical related needs, the coverage is amazing. I can't tell you how many clients I've had who have gotten, long chemotherapy stays, massive surgeries, dialysis, durable medical equipment like oxygen tanks, and everything gets pushed through very quickly. And it's usually very cost effective once you get a supplement too. So, this is an amazing tool for a lot of people if you're looking for very comprehensive hospital medical coverage. Now, the downside is it doesn't cover things like prescriptions, dental, vision, long-term nursing homes. It does cover them in the short term, but there are a bunch of gaps in coverage, and we'll kind of dive into that in a little bit. Also doesn't cover cosmetic procedures. Now, you can get secondary policies to help cover all of these, or if you're on Medicaid, Medicaid will most likely help cover these extra needs. So, again, we're going to dive into that a little bit later, but just know as a baseline, that's Medicare. Now, two other pieces coming into the ABCs of Medicare. We have Part C, which is Medicare Advantage. This is a private alternative to Medicare that bundles services covered and not covered by original Medicare. It's a lot similar in structure to work insurance or marketplace insurance, otherwise known as Obamacare insurance. And there's some pros and cons to this, but know that this does replace your Medicare coverage with a private plan. And finally, Part D, easy enough. Part D, D is for drugs. This is your prescription coverage. So that's the A, B, C's, and D's of Medicare. Let's talk about the costs. So Medicare Part A costs $0 a month for most people. There are a few exceptions, but I have a couple hundred clients, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody pay for Part A. So I always have to let you know there's exceptions to the rules, but I would assume you're going to pay $0 a month for Part A. Now, Part B costs $185 a month for the vast majority of people. It does scale depending on your income, but for the vast majority of people, it's $185 a month, and it will be taken directly out of Social Security payments, or you pay it to the government directly. Now, if you're on Medicaid, this is actually pretty good because Part B should be paid for by Medicaid. I have a lot of clients on both, and most of them have that Part B not taken out of their check. They get the extra $185 a month. It is pretty cool. Now, there are other out-of-pocket costs outside of Medicare, not just dental, vision, prescriptions, all that stuff. The biggest one is this 20% coinsurance. To anybody watching, listening, you might have heard that Medicare pays 80, you pay 20. This is the biggest thing we have to worry about. There's also co-pays, deductibles. Again, I could go on to I could go on about this forever. I want to try to keep this simple for you guys as a great resource, but the options covering these gaps vary depending on the person, and that's essentially what we do is we help people cover the gaps in Medicare coverage, be it the 20% or the dental, the prescription, all that stuff. So, just to give you a quick summary of Medicare, you're going to give the government $185 a month. They're going to let you access basically every doctor and hospital across the country. But there are some serious out-of-pocket costs you could be responsible for. And it doesn't cover some things that I would consider basic care, such as dental, vision, prescriptions, and all that stuff. So that's Medicare, bird's eye view, how all that stuff works. The next thing we're going to talk about is Medicaid. And I know that just about everybody here is taking care of someone or is on Medicaid themselves. So Medicaid is a federal or state level program for people on the lower end of the income spectrum, or due to certain disabilities too. So it is funded heavily on the federal level, but benefits differ from state to state. So New Jersey Medicaid is very different from New York Medicaid, is very different from Pennsylvania Medicaid. And you qualify if you meet certain income and resource requirements. So NJ Family Care is New Jersey's Medicaid. And if you also have Medicare, you're going to get something called NJ Family Care Age, Blind, and Disabled. I'm going to be saying NJ Family Care ABD from here on out, but it is slightly different and does have slightly different thresholds. Now, Medicaid in New Jersey, the beauty of Medicaid, as I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, is everything should be $0 on Medicaid. There should be no monthly premiums. Everything should be zero in terms of out-of-pocket costs, but in many cases, the provider network is smaller. I always use the example that my local doctor that I go to, they have a sign posted that says, we legally cannot accept people who are on Medicaid. So everything is low cost or no cost, but the provider network is often smaller, and you usually have to be pretty proactive to go to local doctor's offices, specialists, that kind of thing. That being said, hospitals tend to take this pretty much no questions asked. So that is a good thing to have. Now, what does Medicaid cover? Well, it should cover everything. You have dental, you have eyeglasses, you have doctor visits, you have specialist visits, you have hospitalizations, prescriptions, lab tests, x-rays, rehab care, mental health services, substance use. I circled it with a big green Sharpie because long-term care services are also covered by Medicaid. And that is a very big cost, which means they are very particular about who they let in to Medicaid when you're also on Medicare. So that's something we're going to dive into in a little bit. Now, you can go to the website, but if you are not on Medicare and you're just on NJ Family Care, it's purely income-based. which is very nice. I think the thresholds for Medicaid are actually relatively accessible in New Jersey compared to some other states I've dealt with. So it's purely income based. A lot of families can get this relatively easily. Now, this again isn't ABD, this is just pure NJ Family Care. So if you want to get on NJ Family Care ABD, again, age, blind, and disabled, this is a fancy way of saying people who have Medicaid and now also have Medicare. So this is harder to maintain because, like we talked about, the nursing home. So you're going to qualify for it if you qualify for SSI payments. This is an income-related Social Security payment. You're going to automatically qualify. Now, in New Jersey, as of 2025, I believe it is $967 a month if you're single, and you have to have under $2,000 in resources. We're going to talk about resources in a little bit. And for a couple, it's about $1,450 in income and $3,000 in resources. So if you don't qualify for SSI, the thresholds are a little bit higher if you just want NJ Family Care ABD. If you're a single person, it's about $1,255 a month as of 2024. I checked the website today and they have not given me the 2025 figures yet, so my apologies. It's not quite up to date. But I literally checked it right before I went on, and it's $4,000 in resources for a single person. For a couple, it is $1,700 a month, just over that, and $6,000 in resources. Now, to everybody watching this, know that if you're on Medicaid and you're trying to qualify for NJ Family Care ABD, in most cases, in my experience, the case is transferred to the county level. So most people are dealing with the state for NJ Family Care. Once they also want to qualify for ABD due to age, due to disability status, whatever it might be, your case is usually transferred to your county social services office. So you're most likely better off getting information going there, making an appointment, talking to them once this goes into the qualification process. Now let's talk about resources. Again, this is very in-depth. There's a bunch of different ones, but there's countable resources and excludable resources. So countable resources are things like your bank accounts, cash, stocks, bonds, homes, retirement accounts, certain life insurance policies. Countable resources, we talked about the 4,000, the 6,000. To me, this is things you have easy access to. Obviously, there's stock hits if you, obviously there's tax hits if you sell stocks, bonds, cash out retirement accounts, but you have easy access to countable resources. That's how I like to think of it. There's obviously exceptions to everything. Excluded resources are things like irrevocable trusts, special needs trusts, home where the community spouse resides. You get one vehicle, personal possessions. So there are resources that don't count. It's not like you literally can't have anything to your name. There are ways you can get around this, so to say. But there are a lot of different things you can do to make sure your resources are excluded. Something you guys may or may not know about is this concept of the Medicaid spend down. So this is the process of spending down all of your resources to qualify for Medicaid. So let's say you're on traditional NJ Family Care, which isn't as resource heavy, and all of a sudden you need to qualify for ABD due to a bunch of different reasons. And let's just say you have $50,000 in the bank. Well, you're going to have to spend $50,000 on nursing homes, medical care, whatever it might be, until you reach below that $4,000, $6,000 threshold in your bank account. So this is tough. You'll see estates, you'll see savings accounts disappear in a matter of months. So if you're not proactive, the Medicaid spend down can hit you very, very fast. It's very tough. And something else is you can't really get around it either unless you do the proper estate planning, because there's this thing called the Medicaid look back period, the Medicaid clawback period. Medicaid can look into your assets the last 5 years to make sure you weren't cheating the system. And if you're over 55, the state can claw back or recover your assets. So an example is, let's say you had $50,000 in the bank, the example we just had, and you said, I don't want to burn through that cash. I'd rather transfer it to a family member and then enroll in Medicaid, win-win. Well, Medicaid is going to trace that transfer and either delay your Medicaid enrollment or take the money back when you pass away. When I talk to senior planning services who helps people with these applications, that's pretty much all they do. They talk about how there's a daily penalty based on the money that you have transferred out knowingly or not knowingly. So you have to produce 5 years of financial statements when you're applying for NJ Family Care ABD in most cases. And if they see that you transferred money away in those 5 years, they're basically going to penalize you per day. I think it's like $400 a day or something like that. But what they'll do is they'll say, okay, you qualify, but we're penalizing you and you can't access your benefits for 6 to 8 months. And you say, well, I need the Medicaid benefits now. And they say, sorry, but that's just how it works. So it adds a lot of stress to the situation. This is definitely something you want to be proactive about as opposed to reactive about. And we're going to use some tools a little bit later in this talk to help you guys hopefully avoid these very painful situations. So that's the foundation, guys. I know I just went through a lot of information in the last 15 minutes or so, but now we get to put it all together into what you guys can do in terms of action, in terms of what your health insurance options are now, and in terms of how you can hopefully stay on Medicaid, keep your loved ones on Medicaid, everything like that. So the first option we have when you qualify for Medicare is something called a Medicare supplement. So Medicare supplements work in tandem with original Medicare, the first thing that I showed you. So the good is you get to keep 98.9% of doctors. There's very little, if any, prior authorizations or claim denials, and it helps cover the 20% co-insurance as well as other Medigafs. Now, the downside is you do pay an additional monthly premium. So you're giving the government $185 a month for original Medicare. That's the doctor's network. That's the 80%. Let's say for another $150, $200, the other 20% gets paid and you get to keep all the good stuff. This can be great because we talked earlier about how Medicaid has a smaller network in a lot of cases. If you want to keep that original Medicare network, you can access Medicare. Then in many cases, you can keep Medicaid to the side and use it on Part D costs, dental, vision. I have clients who have both and use both to their full effect. So it is an option for you to, access original Medicare just like anybody else, and then Medicaid you can be using for other specific instances. Now, there are a bunch of different types of Medicare supplements. I believe it's A through N. Some have been phased out, some are not cost effective, but original Medicare itself fundamentally works the same if you're over 65 or under 65 on disabilities, but the options for Medicare supplements are very different if you're under 65. So most people are going to have what's known as a Plan D, not Part D. It can get confusing with all this alphabet soup, all these different plan types, but a Plan D is a Medicare supplement specifically designed for people under 65. In New Jersey, it's about $139 to $163 a month. You're going to have a $257 medical deductible and 15% Medicare excess charges. Guys, only about 1 to 2% of doctors actually charge these excess charges, so I wouldn't get too scared. Again, I have hundreds of clients. I've never seen them. My colleagues have, but it's very, very rare. So what you can assume, again, there's exceptions to every rule. You're going to have a $257 deductible, then pretty much everything else is going to be covered. Original Medicare plus a supplement is truly amazing. Again, I go back to I've had people get multiple rounds of chemotherapy, multiple dialysis trips, major surgeries, and they pay their $257 deductible and they're pretty much done because only 1 to 2% of doctors charge these charges. A Plan C is getting phased out. You have to have started Medicare before January 1st, 2020 to access it, but truth be told, it's much more expensive. It's not really cost effective. That's why they're phasing it out. But just so you guys know, this is an option and it's going to be pretty much the same coverage as this Plan D I just talked about. The only difference is there's no deductible. Now, New Jersey specific, everybody between the ages of 50 to 64 has to offer you a Medicare supplement, Plan D or Plan C if that's when you started Medicare. So everyone has to offer you a Medicare supplement. If you're below 50, only Horizon Blue has to offer you a supplement. That is some sort of deal they made. It's directly on the Department of Banking and Insurance's website. Only Horizon is going to give you a Plan D if you're under 50. I think I have 2 clients in this situation, and Horizon's been great to them. So just so you know, it's on Horizon's website, New Jersey's website. That's something to know. Now, I have to kind of get into the nitty-gritty details of Medicare supplements. I'm really diving into these a lot for you guys because enrollment in these policies is not always guaranteed. Medicare supplements are one of the few types of health insurance that can deny based on pre-existing conditions in the state of New Jersey. As far as I know, it might be the only type of health insurance. No, there's probably a couple others. My apologies on that. But in general, it is not guaranteed. So usually you have to be within a few months of your Medicare Part B sign up date. This is known as your initial enrollment period. So, if you're approaching that 24 months of Medicare disability, if you're approaching 65, if you're approaching, just going on Medicare, be very careful. Keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears perked, make sure you know your rights because it's not always guaranteed. But there are things like guaranteed issue enrollments when you lose work insurance or due to other circumstances. But again, stay on top of this, be proactive, do not be reactive because you don't always have your options available to you with these Medicare supplements because they can't deny claims. So they're very particular about who they let in. And ooh, one second. Something that I wanted to talk about, guys, but it looks like I printed the wrong slide, so my apologies for that. Um, Medicare brokers like me, in most cases, do not make as much money on Medicare supplements compared to other options that we're going to talk about later. So we're going to touch on that in a second, but just know if someone is really trying to push you away from a Medicare supplement and you're under 65, and a broker like me, and they're really saying, no, you don't want that, you don't want that. There are exceptions to every rule, but in many cases, we get lower commissions. So just keep that in the back of your head. Now we're going to talk about Medicare Advantage. So again, these are Medicare replacement plans, a lot of people call them. They become your primary insurance. It's a public-private partnership. If you guys want the history, many years ago, insurance companies lobbied the federal government, said Medicare is costing you a fortune. We think we can do it better. Whether they have or not is an intense debate. But the nice thing is they do bundle all your services into one policy. It gives you hospital, medical, prescription, dental, vision. They're going to give you a pretty robust network of providers. They also do things like give you over-the-counter cards, extra perks, gym memberships. Now, they often have a low monthly cost. So we talked about, paying $150 a month extra for a Medicare supplement or something like that. A lot of these policies are $0 a month. There are some that are like 30, 50, 60, and up, but a lot of these are very low cost. You still have to give the government your 185 a month, but in many other cases, there's no extra cost in terms of monthly costs. But in New Jersey, a lot of these policies have out-of-pocket maximums somewhere in the $7,500 to $14,000 range. So even though the monthly costs are lower, the trade-off is, if you have one bad year, you can very quickly spend $7, 10, $14,000 on, serious stuff. So again, there's no one size fits all. But because everybody here is focused on Medicaid, something we have to talk about is dual eligible plans. So these are technically Medicare Advantage plans, but they are what I like to call souped up. They are amazing, and they're for people that are on Medicare and Medicaid. So you have to have both to qualify. You're going to get $0 expenses for most services, just like traditional Medicaid, but they do give extra benefits, grocery cards, utilities, transportation. I've seen people get like $300 a month towards groceries. They get payments towards utilities. It's really amazing. And again, the network may be limited. So just like traditional Medicaid, the network can be smaller. In a lot of cases, we've seen that they're maybe a little bit better than traditional Medicaid because the insurance companies can kind of, push their weight around a little bit and have more doctors take it. But it just kind of depends on the situation. And for the different types of dual eligible plans, the most common are known as D-SNPs. These are plans for dual eligible individuals. dual special needs plan, but D-SNP sounds cooler. There's also ones like C-SNPs. These are for specific chronic conditions like cancer, heart disease. These are very area specific. I actually don't know if I've ever seen any in New Jersey. I'm sure they're out there, but I personally have not seen them. And then there's something I have seen, which are I-SNPs, institutional special needs plans. These are for plans for people in a long-term care facility. So again, a fantastic option if you are looking for institutional plans. I believe you have to go direct to insurance companies to get these. So that is something to think about. And coming back to this, what is best? It depends on your situation. Everyone has different health needs, everyone has different financial needs, everyone has different doctors. So we always want to just go one by one, give you all your options, and give you all your information and let you choose. And like I said earlier, we'll say Medicare supplements under 65 have low commissions relative to the other two options. The broker will often, but not always, get paid more to give you a Medicare Advantage plan or dual eligible plan when you are under 65. Now, we are always going to do what's best for you. But I just like to let you guys know that, even if you work with somebody else that specifically under 65, the commission structure might be a little bit different. So it is just something to think about as you go forward and you assess all your options. So that is all the Medicare and Medicaid stuff. I hope that helped. When I talked to Corinne, she said a lot of the questions are specific to staying on Medicaid due to retirement funds, inheritances. So again, Mattis Law, I cannot speak highly enough of these people. They are amazing. Christine Mattis is an amazing lawyer, and she has really made it her mission to help people with disabilities and families who have people with disabilities, access Medicaid, have the care that they need. She's incredibly empathetic. So if you need anything, reach out to her and her team. They are awesome. Now, a couple different ways you can stay on Medicaid. There's NJ Workability. I don't know if anybody has heard about this, but this is a program that allows disabled people and people on Medicaid to continue to maintain Medicaid benefits even while working. It has very much higher income limits and no asset limit. So this is great for everybody who wants to just work a couple hours at the soup kitchen just to get out of the house to, maybe in this instance, the person in the stock image is a paraplegic and they still need access to Medicaid services, but they can perform traditional office work, be a software engineer or something like that. So this is a really amazing program, and we're all grateful that New Jersey has programs like this. I do have a client of mine that is enrolled in NJ Workability, and they did tell me you have to reapply every year. But the person in question works at a soup kitchen many hours a week, actually gets Ubers to work paid for by the state in some cases, and they really like it. Allows them to get out of the house, allows them to help, and it's a great way for them to maintain all the benefits they need and deserve. We're now going to be talking about some more technical legal jargon. Again, guys, I'm an insurance broker. I'm not a lawyer, but this is all information from Mattis Law Group. So one of the ways to protect people and help them maintain Medicaid status is the different special needs trusts. So parents can create these as part of their estate planning. The trust is going to become the beneficiary instead of the individual with disabilities. The money in the trust is not considered the beneficiary's money. This is some really fancy legal jargon for saying it allows the beneficiary on Medicaid, the person on Medicaid, to accept inheritances, accept money, but it won't be counted towards their resources in a lot of cases. So it's a way for the money to, transfer without affecting Medicaid eligibility. The trust can also use funds for expenses not covered by Medicaid, and this should always be created by attorneys specializing in special needs trusts because general lawyers may not know the proper language. You're definitely going to want to find a specialist for this. So a couple different types of this. The first one is a third-party special needs trust. So the first one is a third-party special needs trust. So this is a proactive solution. We keep talking about playing, being proactive, playing offense, not playing defense. This is created during a parent's lifetime as part of estate planning. So this trust has no Medicaid look back or clawback. meaning that Medicaid cannot really touch this. The money can get transferred and everything's okay. And the parents can also designate a secondary beneficiary if the disabled individual passes away. So, a secondary beneficiary is basically like the next person in line. If something were to happen to the individual in question, the money would still transfer to somebody else. So, this is the best of the best. Again, you have to be proactive. You're going to have better protections. You're going to be able to protect the beneficiary in need in a much better way. The next thing is a first party special needs trust. This is a reactive solution. The example they gave me is, you have a loved one on Medicaid or you're on Medicaid, and an estranged uncle that you never met who lives in California leaves you $100,000 in their will. Okay, what do we do about that? So if you form one of these special needs trusts, you are allowed to maintain Medicaid eligibility. It's not going to mess with your resources, but it does have a Medicaid clawback provision, meaning that the remaining funds go to Medicaid after the beneficiary passes away. So essentially, the state in this instance is most likely going to get the money, but you can at least delay that while the person is alive. So, it just kind of sits in a bank account or, sits in the trust. And when that person passes away, the government will get it, but they're going to delay taking that money. It cannot be created for individuals over 65. So there's another tool if you're over 65 called a Medicaid compliant annuity. So this is an option for those over 65 who can't create a first party special needs trust. So basically, if you're under 65, it's third party or first party. And if you're over 65, you're going to want a Medicaid compliant annuity. This is an option for those over 65 who can't create the first party special needs trust. This is going to pay out over time. If you don't know what an annuity is, guys, it's a life insurance policy where you basically put a large sum of money into one of these policies and they pay you out over time. It's much more complicated than that, but I'm just trying to make this simple so everybody understands. So basically, it's going to pay out in amounts that are going to keep you Medicaid eligible. And again, similar to the first party special needs trust, this is kind of delaying the payments to the government. You get to maintain Medicaid eligibility, but at the end, the government is going to get the money. So our final tool in our tool belt is ABLE accounts. And I'm sure people have heard about these, but this is an option for individuals disabled before the age of 26. You can deposit up to $18,000 a year. Won't count towards the resources, which is fantastic. It's a federal program available in New Jersey. So this is another tool in the tool belt, so to say, as Christine Mattis would say, to help people maintain Medicaid eligibility and make sure they are okay. And finally, resources. If you guys need information about Medicaid, you can go to the NJ Family Care website, NJ Family Care ABD website. You can go to Medicare.gov. If you need any help with Medicare, life insurance, dual eligibility, anything like that, we are happy to help you out. Medicaid is not our specialty, but we thrive in Medicare and life insurance and all that. If you need help with Medicaid specific questions, estate planning, special needs trust, Mattis Law Group, unbelievable people. And if you need help with Medicaid applications, I believe when you're a bit older, Senior Planning Services based in Lakewood is also amazing. So